Well, hey, big friendly hello to you. This is the first call of the April 25th Notary Governance meeting. On the roadmap for today, we have a few key topics. The first, for you notaries, we're going to be looking at the SLA, checking in essentially on how that process works, giving you a chance to sign up for the form, and letting you know what we're doing on the governance as far as like updates and follow-ups on that part. The second part of the call is working group updates. Nothing coming from Enterprise Fill Plus, but on the TNT side, they have two new proposals. So we're going to take some time and walk you through what those are, as well as answer any questions that you have. For updates, we have three that are coming through. The removal of a notary. This was the first time it happened. We'll tell you about what went on behind the scenes and how that took place. The KYC on existing notaries. This was filed by Harrisay, talking about what this would mean and how we would implement it. And then circling back to the Datacap removal that's been on the books for the past few weeks. As far as discussions go, we're going to be talking about some of the copyright questions that came up in the Notaries channel. And if there was anything specific that you wanted to see, we'll have plenty of time for that. As always on this call, we'll save time at the end for any questions you may have or want to go over. And we pull these for the next schedule coming up. This is the 25th of April. Next call will be May 9th. If you want to follow it, this slide deck is posted in the public repo in Slack. You can grab that and add any agenda that you want to see as always. So again, this is your time. We'll fill it in from the governance if there's no other topics requested, but if there's anything you want to talk about, add it to this repo and we'll happily discuss it as we go forward. First update. We talked about this last week. If you were on the call, this is a friendly reminder that the address for the registry has changed. It is no longer plus.fil.org. It is updated to filplus.fil.org. Reason why I kept this in the deck is I saw that there was a question in the public repo about this. So just giving you one final check-in that update has changed on the address. If you have any questions or you're new to the community or you're not sure who to reach out to, we always like to include this so you know who can help you around. My name's Kevin. I'm with the Filecoin Foundation. If you're not sure who to ping at any time, you could always reach out to me and I'll help route you back to either KZ on Enterprise Fill Plus, RG leading up the trust and transparency, Phil, who's working on tooling for the dashboards for notaries, and Simon, who's working on the client outreach. Deep, as always, is focused on the Datacap flow, and Galen has stepped into more of a leadership position on how we're looking at the governance process overall. So with that, notaries that are on the call, if you remember, we've switched over to starting to use the leaderboard. Big thank you to Alexandre, Phil, and Cataline for kicking this off. And now with this leaderboard, we can exactly see how many calls were attended, how many issues were proposed. And this is one of the things we'll be talking about more on the call as we go through it. So I'm going to paste the link to this leaderboard here in chat. And with this link, you can then take this and sign into the leaderboard here. When you sign in, you'll have to use the same GitHub that you have on your application. And once you've done that, it will then link today's call with this. So we're using this for the SLA. We'll be talking about this in a little bit more detail in the calls we go through. But again, I'll also post this again at the end of the call. So you notaries that are on, that's the link for you guys to kind of log your SLA. If you're a storage provider, an applicant, a community member, I highly recommend if you have a GitHub to fill this out as well. We put a lot of emphasis into trust when we're working with Filecoin Plus. So if you have been a part of this and you have been contributing, it goes a long way if you want to reach out and either apply to be a notary in the future or have questions. So this isn't just for notaries to sign up. Feel free to follow that link and link in. Now, the reason why we're going to be taking a look at this is if you were a notary and you came to Phil Lisbon or you dialed in, we spoke a lot about the leveling structure of the notary process. And one of the things we were looking at the fourth round was saying, look, some notaries have different amounts of time available. Some might have a little bit of time. Some may have a lot. Some may want to really dedicate themselves to this program, or they have a big emphasis on the data that they want to help bring on. Others, not so much. So in the scoring, we created an SLA tier where we gave additional points to notary applications based off how much time and emphasis they would be putting at. So for the first couple of months, as we've rolled it out, we've really kind of like let notaries kind of find their rhythm, find their groove. But the reason why I'm sharing this slide is starting in the coming days, I'm going to be pinging a lot of the notaries, actually all of you notaries that have kind of signed up. and just saying like, hey, this is what we're seeing from a governance on your time commitment and contributions to the network. You've signed X number of applications, you've been on X number of governance calls, or flip that. We haven't seen anybody on a governance call, or we haven't seen you active in the repos. And so we'll be following up with all the notaries. Now, if you're watching this or you're listening here, you good to go. Thank you. We appreciate you coming in. But I guess I'm going to be speaking with a lot of the notaries that haven't been on these calls to say, look, we gave you an increased score because you said you'd be available and on these calls, but we haven't seen you. So is this still something that you'd like to remain active in, or would you like to kind of step back into a less active role in the notary? And then in the next election, we'll get you set up. So just as a friendly heads up, we'll be reaching out to all of the notaries to kind of go over that. The thing that a big check-in with the notaries is the expectations. We're going to talk a little bit on the call about one of the notaries we had to remove recently. So just wanted to share this again. The big aspect of being a notary in this program is adding a layer of trust and reputation to the network. So thank you for the notaries that are doing that, operating in good faith, being upfront in your disclosures, never self-dealing, and then serving the network to improve it. It's really nice, and that we're trying to drive to this community model. So those of you here that are active, thank you. You're what make Phil Plus work, and we're grateful for your help. There was a question that was posted in Slack a couple of days ago. Simon put this on the roadmap that published Friday. I just wanted to highlight this for any notaries on the call. It was gas fees. What a great flag. So it was essentially saying, hey, the transaction cost in these applications is not nothing. So as I'm signing more and more of these applications, I'm having to come out of pocket. We hear you loud and clear. So what the Filecoin Foundation is going to do is they are going to transfer 5 Phil to the address on file with your notary application. This is meant to help cover the gas fees in those applications. If it's Tuesday right now, I expect that distribution to either hit your wallet probably early May. And the reason for the time frame of being ready now, but going out in May, is that's how long it takes for all the legal sanctions check. And again, thank you for your patience. Notaries, you'll see that ledger hit in the first week of May as it comes through. I'm going to turn the floor over now to Phil, if he's on the call here. Otherwise, I'll have someone else speak for him to talk about the new label consolidation.
Hi, hello guys. So very quick, we have changed the labels for the LDN applications. We realized that these labels are super important because we rely on them for both tooling and analysis, and also for you guys to understand where your LDN application is at in terms of how soon you are to get your Datacap. And over the years, like we have updated this many times, and because of that, we've had an explosion of the number of labels. Like we had at one point, I think like 30 labels. And so we decided to just like do like a quick spring cleaning type thing and cleaned up all the labels, and it's now down to just, I believe, 13 labels. There are many labels that were doubled, so we just combined them. And I posted a Medium post about this, and that should have a complete list of all the essential labels we have now. Going forward, we plan to add a few more labels, but that's for extra functionality. You don't need to look at that right now. For now, these are the labels that you need to know in order to understand the LDN application process. All the old issues will have labels migrated to the new label set. So as you can see here, you should say Fabri added this label and removed this label and added this label and removed label. So he made a bot that went through all the LDN applications and did the label migration. So you don't need to worry about your old LDNs being broken in that sense. And yeah, so this is the new stuff. You can check the Medium post to look at that. If you have any questions, please let me know.
That's awesome, Phil. All right, kind of shifting gears a little bit. That was the updates from the notaries and issues aspects. I'll kind of pause and see if anybody on the call wants to kind of flag or discuss before we get to the end any of the labels, the gas fees coming, kind of the expectation check-in for SLAs, or any kind of questions on anything we've covered so far.
Hi, Kevin. I just have a quick question. So I typed the ID to register a meeting, but after I refresh the page, and there's no like new meeting show. So the record was showed, but the new one is not showed on the meeting attendance.
I see. So is the new meeting not added to the list of meetings on your list?
Yes,
Yeah,
I see
me
like
too.
Daddy the Danny has the same problem as well, I think.
I see. Okay. I'll take note of the problem. I think it's recently we made like a few changes because we had to make it possible for non-notaries to sign up. So don't worry. I think as long as you put in the code, the signal should have been inputted, so it could update. And we'll let you know when we fix this ASAP.
Okay, thank you so much.
Just put in the
Yeah,
code first. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Hey, Phil, on that, will they be able to sign in, or should I push out the old Airtable as a fail-safe to make sure that everyone on the call can get this?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. But push out
Okay.
the table.
Okay, I'll update that when it's not my chance. Hey, thanks for flagging that, guys. We will get that pushed and I'll import that Airtable. So give me a few minutes when it's not my turn to talk. I'll update that Airtable form and push it out to you. Great flag.
In general, I mentioned this in the chat too, in the Slack channel. It would be great if we could have a public issue system for these websites. It's been useful in the past. It's kind of what our policy is, that these should be open source tools with an open way of reporting and suggesting patches. So I think it would be great to get on with that.
Yeah, Danny, on that actually, I do plan to write like a bug standards for bug reporting. It's on the roadmap, I think. And I think it should be. We should have something within like the next few weeks. But right now there's like a bunch of other issues that we're dealing with. If you think that's really important, we can start doing the GitHub issues first for now. That works for me too. GitHub issues, Slack messages. Right now it's all very non-standardized. So some people Slack message me, some people do GitHub issues, and both I think work for me right now. I think in the future we will standardize that though. Yes, GitHub issues. You're correct.
Great. If you could post a link to where the GitHub repo that the issues should be raised in, into the chat, I think that would be handy.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll do that.
Great. I appreciate that, Danny. Thank you. For anybody having issues, here is the link to the Airtable. Just going to use this legacy form for you guys to sign in. So if you're blocked at all, I've just put this Airtable link here. If you follow this link, which is in chat, you'll be able to sign in and we'll import this data out of Airtable into the leaderboard. So thanks for flagging that. We'll go through and make sure that's squared away. All right. Galen, are you on the call? If not, I'll speak to this, or Deep, if you'd like to speak to this. Otherwise, I'll speak to this. Stop saying speak to this. All right.
Yeah, if Galen isn't, I could take a stab at it if you guys can hear me all right.
Yeah, Deep, thank you so much. We could hear you.
Totally. Jerry, hopefully this buys you a minute to figure out the other thing too. So hey, everybody. Yeah, quick updates. As many of you are already aware, we are currently in what we're calling the quality phase of Filecoin Plus. This is specifically a transition from the past where the focus has been more on scaling up the actual program and ensuring that we can meet the needs of the growth that we're seeing in the demand of the network. And so specifically, a couple of things to call out in this are that there's a few different key target areas for this. The goals are very much targeted towards three things. We have one on quality, which is related to the quality of data coming on board being greater than 95% in the future for net new Datacap utilization. One on enablement, which is to ensure that all valid use cases are still served, and then one on transparency and visibility. And so this is really to hit home on that third piece. We've got a picture here of the roadmap. This is a public roadmap that tracks all of the items that we're all working on, at least from like the investments that the governance team is making on a week-over-week basis. So this is available to you live at a URL. And the interesting thing about this is it hooks directly into our actual work items database in Notion. So we're keeping this updated. And so you'll see in this every single week what we're working towards. And this is defined based on milestones. So the cards that you see up here, each of them can be clicked into, as Kara is doing right now, and you can read the details inside and see what each milestone's exit criteria looks like. So what will actually be completed at the time that we consider this work to be done at that week. And some of these cards are relatively long living in that there are multiple milestones that have to be crossed for them to be considered done. And so you actually see, milestones being checked off inside the Notion card, and then the dates being updated for when you can expect future updates on that work. Kara, anything else you'd like me to go into detail with?
Oh, that was lovely, Deep. Thank you. Sweet. Does anybody on the call have any questions about the roadmap or anything that they'd like to kind of discuss or make sure that's on? All right. With that, Phil, I'll turn it back to you for the Datacap stats update.
Hi guys. Yeah. So special thanks to Katlin from the DMOB team. He's been working very in a very fast speed to create to update this datacapstats.io. If you check datacapstats.io right now, the landing page is updated with this new brand Sankey chart that shows the flow of how Datacap moves through our different stakeholders. There's also many different new statistics that are added there. Increases transparency, of course, in the Fil Plus ecosystem. And yeah, I think with this move towards the quality phase, as many of you may have seen Galen's Medium post, I think it's essential for this transparency to the first step towards a quality phase is to detect how Datacap flows and detect many different metrics in the Fil Plus program. So I think this is a good first step towards it. There will be many updates coming soon too. This is just the first part of it. I posted a Medium post here all about it. And yeah, so if you have any questions about this, let me know. Or again, if you have bugs, please report it in the GitHub repo I just posted on the Zoom chat. Thanks. Back to you, Kerry.
Danny, by the way, this repo, Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, but this should be the repo as well for is the leaderboard being driven by the same repo, or is there a different one for that?
There's no, I think for now, I'm just telling everyone to put the bugs here. And I think, just put the label bug for now. I think in the future, there might be standards for each dashboard having their own, or each piece of tooling having their own repo. But for now, we'll just put everything here, and then I'll deal with that stuff. Thanks.
All right. With that, we're going to kind of switch gears into working groups and turn it over to RG for an update on issue 860. RG.
So thank you so much, Kerry, for that. So there are two issues that I would like to flag for the community. These were opened on the weekend. So the first one is regarding a collaboration with Filecoin Green for SP KYC. And so right now, most of the KYC efforts within Filecoin Plus, within the governance team, are focused on clients. And so one of the things that we really want to do is, one of the things that we've heard a lot from notaries is it's quite hard for them to assess the validity of different SPs. And so instead of building a whole KYC process ourselves, we wanted to leverage some of the existing efforts in the ecosystem. And so right now, the proposal is quite simple. It says that notaries should be able to use the scoring mechanism that the Filecoin Green team has developed in their due diligence process. So what that would mean is the notaries can just look at the score of a notary on the Filecoin Green dashboard, and they're able to say that, hey, because this notary is participating in Filecoin Green, this gives me confidence that this SP has been working in Filecoin Green, so this gives me confidence that the client is working with a legitimate SP. So if you do have thoughts or suggestions on this proposal, please go to issue 860 and propose your thoughts. Yeah, and if you do have specific questions regarding how the Filecoin Green team is calculating the green scores, you can always redirect the questions to me, and I can invite the lead from the Filecoin Green team to one of the Trust and Transparency working group calls. Thank you. And then we can go to the second issue. So the next one is issue 861. So one of the things that we are trying to do, as we enter this quality phase, is define what quality data looks like. And so the first step in that process is defining high quality deal making. Now, of course, there's many different metrics that can constitute what high quality deal making means. But right now, I think some of the governance team has come up with a few metrics that we wanted to propose to the community that I believe will lead us to a reality where we can start to define what quality means eventually. And so if you do have thoughts on the specific metrics, including the query, please add your thoughts or suggestions to this issue. This is definitely getting us closer to a reality where we can objectively define how much abuse there is, how much quality data has been onboarded. And so, in the effort for transparency, we would love to have everyone's thoughts and efforts on this. Thank you so much.
It was perfect, RG. Before we go on, does anybody on the call have any questions for RG about the high quality deal making or the Filecoin Green KYC? Right. Very well said. Under proposals, we have 3 ones that we wanted to ensure that you were tracking and aware of. So the first one was the Datacap removal request. Simon, can I pass this one over to you for updates?
Yeah, thanks, K-Ray. Hey, everyone. So I know we've been discussing about this topic or proposal in the previous calls, but we finally have the workaround for the Datacap removal feature all set up now. So as a notary or a member of the Trust and Transparency Working Group, you can submit a proposal to remove or modify a client's data cap. If you see the photo, the second photo below, the proposal is pretty straightforward. It asks 4 questions: the client application URL or number, the client name, the client address, and the amount of data cap to be removed. Once the proposal is made public, there will be a 2-week discussion period, so during which community members can express their views on why the proposal should or should not be accepted. If you do create a proposal, please provide your reasoning behind why this proposal was created in the comments section. And again, just like some examples, maybe client requested to another wallet, accidental duplicate, or just like providing false information. Again, this is just a workaround. We're currently working with another team to make sure we can launch the original version. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And thank you.
That's great, Simon. Thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions for Simon on the data cap removal before we go on?
I would just say one more thing. Like, if you want to see an example, there's 2 proposals actually open right now in the Notary Governance repo that I created. So if you want to see an example on how we did it, it's pretty straightforward again. You can take a look from there.
That is awesome. Thank you. All right, this next one, maybe I'll talk a little bit, then pass it over to RG for some more clarifications. So you guys might have seen this proposal. It was opened up around a week and a half ago, and this was a first. And it essentially said, look, we need to remove a notary from the multi-sig 3.1. And the reason for it is we had a claim and verification of fraudulent activity, where this notary had essentially positioned themselves and claimed to be someone that they were in fact not. It was flagged by the community, and then it was brought to the Trust and Transparency group, who looked into this, gave this notary a chance to kind of address this issue. And then if it went unaddressed, they would be removed. So this was kind of a turning point in how we're looking at the notaries. And the first time that we took this step forward in this fourth round to remove somebody that either wasn't meeting their expectations or was a clear violation of the standards that was put forward. So they were removed from the notaries channels. These were removed from the multi-sig. And this was the first public time that we'd done this. So I wanted to maybe dedicate time. If anybody on the call had any questions about what happened in this, if anything that they'd like to know more about, and then turn the floor over for RG if he had any additional thoughts that he wanted to add on this.
So I guess the only thought that I'll add is this violation was led to an on-chain consequence. And so, as you can see, we removed the notary from the multisig. We haven't received any update from the said notary or anyone else in the community regarding any pushback, I would say. And so moving forward, I think we are looking to standardize the process. So what that would include is, of course, we will follow this playbook that we used for removing this notary. That means starting an issue, doing everything in public, so requesting the multisig maintainers here. And so, yeah, I think if anyone else has any thoughts or suggestions on how we can improve the process of potentially taking an action against a notary when it comes to collusion or anything that would result in an on-chain consequence, please reach out to me, or you can always join the Trust and Transparency Working Group calls where we'll discuss this issue further. But I think just wanted to highlight again that this was the first time ever, to my knowledge, that a notary was removed from a multi-sig. And so, of course, this sets a precedent, but it also kind of, sends a strong signal that I think we're all very serious about the quality phase.
Well said, RG. Yeah, sad days. I hope that we don't have to cross this bridge, but I think now that we've kind of opened this door and walked through it, we have a lot more of a better sense on how to communicate this with the notary in question, with the person who flagged, you as the community, and then the governance team to work it. So thank you for the time on that. Which kind of leads to the next application that was proposed, and this came from Heresy. And essentially what this is looking at how are we doing KYC with the fourth round notaries. So if you came to the most recent Trust and Transparency call, we kind of talked about this at a high level, and that essentially the way that the elections have happened in the past, in the first, second, and third round, is that it was members of the community that were highly engaged in the Filecoin ecosystem. They could point to their work on Slingshot. They could point to a wealth of GitHub repositories. They were well known within the community. So the application was giving them a chance to kind of provide those opportunities. Look at these links, look at this website, look at my history. And as the program grew, we eventually began scorings. This would allow different regions to be able to kind of represent. So we didn't just have 80 notaries all from one region. The goal was to have notaries from other regions, and then therefore, if an application came through, one notary region might be asleep while the other notary region could tie into that. With this fourth round of elections, it was a little bit of a different ball game. And what I mean by that was a lot of the applications that came through were newer. So they hadn't really had an established reputation within the Filecoin ecosystem, or they were looking to kind of get involved and make sure that they could ensure the data was being stewarded properly. So with that, the way that we did our KYC in the fourth election was very much based off like online available reputation. So if a notary said that they were affiliated with XYZ website, we would go check the website. We would make sure that the email matched that website. But that diligence was at a very high level. It really wasn't like a deep KYC, KYB, where we actually verified addresses, verified IDs, verified pictures. So what this proposal from the community is saying, is it worthwhile to come back and look at that verification from the fourth round and do anything additional as we come through on it? So one of the goals of this would be that the notaries that are taking place in this fourth round, they're built on trust. They've all been verified and they can go forward. So in this proposal, they threw out a very specific system. What's nice is the work that KZ has been working on Enterprise Fill Plus actually has a KYC tool that we're going to talk about in the next slide. But I wanted to pause and just kind of check in for a discussion on how the notaries on this call feel about some additional KYC. What are your thoughts about the standards and how we're looking at this, and any input as we start to flush this out in the proposal? All right. Well, with that, let me turn the next slide over. So KZ has been working on this. KZ, I know that you had a slide update. Is this the one that you had updated, or was there another one?
No, it wasn't. Sorry.
All right. Then I think that it might be in the private folder.
Okay.
If you drop it to me, I'll be happy to get that up. Was it still okay to play this video?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So essentially what KZ is scoped out is this toggle system. And what this is a KYZ for applications on the Enterprise Fill Plus. What we're looking at is using toggle for the application process for notaries that they come in to verify this. So maybe the first question is, what does this verification look like? And then how can it be like brought in? KZ, let me see if I can pull over that slide that you sent here. So with that, I'll play this video.
And this is the toggle demo. We are
I'm gonna pause it. Hey, just quick check-in. Can you guys hear the narrator coming through okay?
Yes.
Okay, great.
decentralized KYC solution. We're on the third-party website, and we wanted to verify ourselves. So we started the verification flow. This is the first stage of our integration, where people can choose if they have an account or they don't have an account. So we go for the sign up because we don't have an account. So we explain what is our decentralized identity and how we treat information, and why it's better to choose a decentralized solution compared to the normal one. So now we are going to do one test email. Here. We are creating in this moment a decentralized storage for myself for this test email. Now I received an email confirmation. I go through that. And now is the first time that I open my account, so I need to go through the verification process. What does it mean? I need to jump on the phone and do the verification process. If I'm already on the phone, I can do the whole process seamless. We can use a QR code, email, or SMS. So for now, we go for the QR code. I can even choose to use the email to go through the process. Now we switch. We started the verification. That means we need to go through the whole process. I needed to re-enter the email address that I used before. So it's this one. This is a double check for the decentralized storage. It's selfie time. That means we needed to go through the verification. What I did, I needed to match my face in the oval. And that is done. Then after, on this one, we are using a GPA, that is a General Presence Assurance that is by Estonia government to e-residency. On this one, we go for national ID card. I'm Italian, so I will check Italy. We go through that. This is done. And then this is the back one. Now we are checking the machine in the ball zone and etc. for all the information. Now all the information has been uploaded and verified. The verification is submitted in second and everything is checked. If you check this one, the verification is done. So what we do, we go back and now we are verified. This is a normal workflow. Imagine that we wanted to onboard a second client that well. So we start the verification. We can go through the whole process again, but what we do this time, we log in with our decentralized storage. So we log in, we go in. It's they are requesting access of my information. I will share the information and I'm verified in a few clicks. If you wanted to know more, or if you wanted to jump in a call, go in our website and you can book that. Thank you so much. And this is the toggle.
So that was the toggle IO, and I would imagine we'd be plugging that into some form, either the registry and all that. KZ, you've been working with that for a little bit now. Is there anything that you wanted to add before we kind of turned over to discussions on tooling?
No, I think you nailed it. It's a little too early to present the full integration and flow and process as of yet. But today we just wanted to introduce the product that we've been partnering with and working on, because it is very timely, because of we're talking about this for notaries. I'm implementing it for the e-fill full upfront check process. So this just gives everyone a little taste of what it's like. It's straightforward KYC. Almost everyone has probably done this before. There's many tools out there, but we'll be using this to integrate with our applicants. Yeah.
Does anybody on the line have any thoughts or have any questions or any flags before we kind of start to pursue this and link it into that proposal?
Hey, it's Danny. I think this is great. I think it makes sense that notaries have we can prove the identity of a notary, particularly in the light of the identity theft case we had previously. I'm just going to flag here that I am pondering kind of the spread of KYC requirements across the Filecoin Plus program, because I do wonder if there's a risk as the Filecoin Plus program grows that we may be effectively excluding some individuals or organizations because of that. But this is only half a thought. I don't think it should affect this. I just wanted to make sure that I raised it, so I remember about it as we continue.
That's a good point. And just to touch on that, Danny, really quickly. So this will not be required. It'll be an opt-in. So when you log into fillplus.storage, you can opt in to do KYC if you choose to. Again, for the eFill Plus program, it will be a requirement for those applicants who are going through the full upfront check, but we will make it an opt-in process for everyone else, because again, to your point, we don't want to limit anyone from being able to apply. It just adds another layer of trust for those who wish to do it. I see Galen has a hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I'm walking right now, so there might be background noise. That's a great flag, Danny, and also that's part of why we want to test it. So rolling it out now as part of this proof of concept, because then we can find out who doesn't this service work for as we push it through our various like notaries and enterprise programs. And then through doing that research, we'll be able to say, okay, this is not the right fit, Toggle specifically might not be the one only fit for everything, and we can find other providers. That's also where we have a couple other services we're looking at. So continue to flag and let us know if there are services that you guys know about that work best in your area.
Nice. Thanks, Galen. Deep, I saw your hand. Floor is yours.
Yeah, only briefly. I just wanted to double down on something Galen said there, which is basically, I think that this is one of many such things that we'll probably need to experiment with as we grow the scope of ways in which people can show who they are, what they're working on, forms of KYC and KYB. And so we're looking forward to running many such experiments in the future. But of course, opting into these things is opting into these things, not a requirement, not mandatory, one way in which you can actually deliver this. And so looking forward to experimenting with this and other stuff in the coming future.
Well said. Does anybody else have any thoughts or discussion about Toggle as a KYC, or any thoughts on the KYC as we evolve?
I think, sorry, go ahead.
Please, RG, floor is yours.
I think, I think every time the discussion around KYC comes, there's of course concerns around decentralization of services and, of course, given how how widespread Filecoin is, there's always going to be services that might not work for each and every region. But I think on the other side, from a trust and transparency perspective, we keep getting proposals and keep hearing different voices saying that, oh, we need stricter KYC. And I think as we're moving towards this quality phase, we are going to take the approach where we start to experiment with some of these solutions. And, of course, they will always be optional, as Deep and Gillen mentioned. And I think one of the things that, why the TNT working group exists is, if there's a dispute tracker and if there's anything that is a concern, even regarding Toggle or regarding a specific tool, you can always raise that issue, and we will make sure that it's done outside the realm of eFil Plus. And so, of course, I think I just wanted to flag this to the community. If you do have concerns regarding the dispute tracker, is not just only for the stakeholders in the network. It's also about different tools and systems we're building. So if you do think there's a bias in a tool or a system, you can always flag that as well, and that will go through the same level of due diligence and discussion that we have for other disputes. So just wanted to flag that as well.
Very well said, as always, RG. Very well said. Well, in this application that came through from Harrisay, I wanted to kind of flag 2, 3, 4 points for the community about the election process. So in the application, he's specifically calling for, hey, does it make sense to look at everybody in the 4th round? And given the fact that it's April 25th today, and we have a tentative election coming up in the summer, I'm going to probably comment and share my feedback that requiring every 4th round notary to go through a due diligence, deep KYC probably wouldn't be the best use of resources. But the best way to do it would be to capture this feedback and look at the 5th round. So leaning forward and talking about 5th round early, we're looking at having a Fil Plus day either in late May or June. On that Fil Plus day is typically when we roll out enhancements, updates, and changes to the election process. Then after that, having the election sometime around July of tentative of 2023. This gives us 2 or 3 months to really put the framework in place for how do we do a nice KYC in the 5th round of elections. Also coming up on that elections, and we'll talk about this on Fil Plus Day, is what do different types of notaries look like? We floated this in the past, but we implemented this on one straight line, is do we have different levels of notary just for community, LDN, or direct allocations, as well as scoring. I think I mentioned earlier on the call that when we did this election in a very smaller subgroup, a lot of the fields in the application are unstructured. They're paragraph form. It's a lot of like, hey, I have done this, and you self-register. Restructuring that application process to make it a numerical form, primarily driven. That way the scores are a lot clearer. We could have the scoring based off regions as well as coming back. And then also taking a look at baking in this KYC and diligence and sanctions check right in the initial application. Just speaking from the governance team, a lot of what happens behind the scenes is like unification of data, which means if we have an application, tie that application to the disclosure, tie that disclosure to the sanctions check, tie that to GitHub, to Slack, you can see it becomes quite the lift to make sure that they're all connected and going out. And we're still working on that as we go. So really making that application easier for you as well as us. So I think if I put a bow on this final thought, we'll probably be doing a lot more KYC in the 5th election and really making it opt-in, as RG and KZ and Deep and Galen mentioned, for notaries in the 4th. So pausing one last time before, if anybody has any final thoughts off this information, and we'll kind of move on to the next. All right. There's one community discussion. I'll just flag it in case you might have missed it. This came from ZC Phil, and it was essentially like, hey, what do we do if we're looking at copyrighted data? And they posed this to Sunny is Coming. There was a lengthy reply from RG in this discussion on like, how should you handle this? What does it really look like? So if you have ever like had copyright data come through, I know it's very specific by different regions that we live and operate. I just wanted to flag this as a very worthwhile discussion to check out if you were curious, and then turn the floor over if anybody has any topics that they'd like to bring up or flag for the community.
I guess it's my meaning to be cranky, but I just like to remind everyone that all data that's finalized is copyrighted. So, and copyright doesn't work on a sort of ownership principle, it works on a licensing principle. You can either be licensed to make copies of data, and you can potentially be infringing, but there are defenses against particular copies through fair use. So it's as you say, it's really not clear cut, but I think we should probably steer away from the idea that all copyrighted data is a problem, because all data is copyrighted. Yeah, public data sets are copyrighted. The only real exception to that, and it is United States federal data, which isn't copyrighted, and I guess things that are explicitly in the public domain, but the majority of other data. So I'll jump into that thread. It looks really interesting and definitely on topic for me.
All right, guys, we have a wonderful day. Thanks again for all of you that came on the call. We'll be posting this to YouTube tonight. Thanks again. Cheers, everyone. All right. Well, big friendly hello. This is the second governance call of April 25th. Let's take a look at what's on the agenda. We're going to kick off with notary updates. This is the SLA check-in, some comms about how we're looking at SLA going forward, talking about the gas fee that the foundation will be pushing out, and then a little bit of an update on the roadmap just to make sure everyone's tracking that. We'll slide right into working groups. The purpose of this is there won't be Enterprise Phil Plus on the call, but RG will be joining us, walking through a little bit about 860 and 861, essentially how we're incorporating KYC with Filecoin Green, and how we're updating the dispute resolution trackers. We have 3 new proposals, making sure this is on your radar. We'll talk a little bit about what happened with the notary removal that was recently put through. We'll talk in detail about the KYC proposal that was pushed up, and then we'll wrap that up with the Datacap removal that's been on the books for a few weeks. We'll have plenty of time at the end of this call, so if there's anything on your mind or anything comes up, we'll be happy to talk about it. As always, feel free to shoot a hand up during this presentation. We'll pause and go through and give you plenty of time for anything that's on your mind. If you're joining this call right now, as a friendly reminder, this takes place every 2 weeks. We have a repository in GitHub, as well as the YouTube calendar. The links are in the deck, which are in the Slack. So if you want to see the next call, it's coming up on May 9th at 0800 and 1800 Pacific time. We post these agendas in GitHub. So if there's any topics that were on top of mind, just make a comment in GitHub and I'll be sure to give you time at the call for whatever you want to talk about, making sure that this is our time to anything we want to go through. All right, notaries that are on the call. Just a friendly reminder, because I saw this come through in Slack, the address for the registry bot has been updated. It is no longer plus.phil.org. It is now philplus.phil.org. Slight difference, big difference. Just a friendly reminder, please update those bookmarks. If you need any help, backup, or support, this is your friendly governance team. My name's Kevin. If you're not sure who to reach out to, or you haven't seen any movement come across, feel free to send me a ping and I'll help route you to the appropriate parties. KZ leads our Enterprise Plus. RG leads the Trust and Transparency. Bill has been working on notary tooling. Simon on the client onboarding. Deep's kind of taken a holistic approach to how is the Datacap flowing through all of these processes. And Galen has stepped into a leadership role on how is this overall governance working. All right. Hey, notaries that are on the call, SLA. So we've rolled out this dashboard for the leaderboard. I'm going to post the link here in chat. So if anybody hasn't seen this yet, grab this link and this is where you're going to go to put in your participation. So I post a new link every week before the call. That's what this is right here. And what you do is you'll take this link and I'll post it in chat. You post it in this leaderboard and it automatically will update your time and participation. So thank you so much for doing that. I'm going to grab this code right here so no one has to worry about copying and paste. And it's right there in chat waiting for you. So if you grab that code, go into the Slack, you'll now be able to sign up. This morning, we had a report that it wasn't working from some notaries. So just as a quick recap, you have to sign in with your GitHub application that is on your notary application. If it's different, it might not work. If you are new to the community, a storage provider, an applicant, whoever it may be, we highly suggest that you sign into these. Filecoin Plus is built on social trust. So the more that we see you in the community, the more that you're active, that builds up that trust. So we highly encourage you to do that. If you hit any blocks at all, like this repo isn't working, you have any things that happens, I'm going to post a link to the Airtable. What Phil and I are doing right now is we're still exporting all of the Airtable sign-ins into this repository. So what would be nice is that in a few weeks when you log in here, you'll get to see every single call that you've been on for the last 6 months, as well as all the unique information. And again, the purpose of this leaderboard is that we can essentially build in this social trust of the notaries that are participating, show how long it is to TTD, the data cap allocated. And this is just one more of those mechanisms to try to make this program as transparent and clear as possible as we go forward on that. Any blockers, any problems, any issues, put them in chat and we'll go through and we'll help you out as we go. So, hey, notaries, this SLA is kind of a big deal as we start to look forward. If you remember back in Phil Lisbon, we talked about how to put together like an application and then what would be the time commitment of notaries on this process. We set up an SLA based off levels. So if you were a notary, just kind of wanted to maybe kind of participate, maybe allocate some data, maybe come to a call or two, this gave you the chance to essentially accept a lower score, but not commit. What we saw was a lot of notaries in the fourth round picked, hey, I want to be really involved. I want to be an L4. I want to be an L5. And therefore, they received a much higher score on their applications. One of the things we're doing right now is we're going back through the GitHub logs, through these calls, through the Slack communications, and we're kind of taking a look. And so if somebody signed up and they said, yep, I'm going to be an L4, I'm going to be an L5, but they haven't been assigning data, or they haven't been coming to calls, or they haven't been active in the repos, or we haven't been able to reach them on Slack, we're going to send them a really friendly ping. Hey, we haven't seen a lot of you. Is this still something that you want to be involved in? So notaries kind of expect to have a ping from me, super friendly, just seeing if there's anything we can do to help you, making sure that this is still a good fit, not just from us to you, but you to us. So if there's anything top of mind, please let me know, but we'll kind of been circling with this. And as just a clarification, here's kind of the expectations of what a notary is signing on for. First and foremost, good faith. So we're looking for somebody that's like truly reading these, truly making an effort, not self-dealing, not going through these things that could be perceived as self-beneficial. very transparent upfront in the disclosures. So obviously we have the CID checker, obviously we have trust and transparency, but one of the best ways is to just kind of disclose this right up front, like, hey, I'm doing X. So we're really looking for that form of transparency when it comes through it. Then obviously participation. This is meant to be a self-governed and led kind of working towards that DAO. So being active. You guys are on this call. Thank you. You checked that box. I'm not really talking to you in this one, but there's some notaries, we haven't seen them since the application. So is this really a good fit if we can't push out information or hear from them going forward? Then obviously no self-dealing. That's very explanatory. And then just making sure that you're doing things to help the network. Are you working on programs? Are you identifying fraud? Are you joining working groups? So you notaries that are on the call, thank you. You're why we're doing this. We're grateful to have you. It's working out well. So one of the feedbacks that we got recently in Slack, thank you so much for raising this, was that essentially it's kind of expensive when you're signing these applications. You have to pay this gas fee over and over and over again. And just like gas for a car, this ain't cheap. So message heard. What we're doing from the foundation is we will be transferring 5 fill to all of the verified addresses for notaries. And this is meant to cover the cost of gas fees for the next few weeks and months. Thank you again for flagging this. Thank you again for making this. Right now it's April 25th in my time zone. I would estimate that transfer goes out from the foundation wallet around May 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th. That's kind of how long it takes to get the finance teams to bless off everything. So just as a heads up, you'll get that fill in around 2 weeks. Big thank you. And again, thanks for flagging this. So Simon pushed this out last week in the Friday updates. Just a quick call out, you'll be getting that 5 fill. And thank you again. I'm going to pass the floor over. Actually, you know what? I'm not. Phil's not on the call tonight, so I'm going to talk on his behalf and tell you a little bit about what's going on with the labels. So obviously, half of the prots that we have run off GitHub. A lot of those GitHubs, they rely on these essentially labeling systems to know which way to run the bot. I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. It's essentially broken in the fact that there are so many delays in this process. And so what Bill and Fabri have been working on is trying to simplify that. So there's a fixed number of labels. Those labels should really fast track things as they go through it. And then also let us give metrics, like where are we seeing blockages in the process? So props to Phil, props to Fabri. They're working on this quite diligently. This is just one of those updates to keep you in the loop as this moves forward, that you will see changes to these labels. Phil pushed out a blog in Medium. If you have any questions, feel free to post in the Notaries channel and we'll run down anything you need. So with that, I'm going to pause because we covered a lot. I'm going to check Slack and chat. If there's anything on your mind, feel free to shoot a hand up and we'll come by and help you. All right. I see a couple cameras, but if anything comes to mind, feel free to shoot that hand and we'll always circle back. Hey, governance. This has been a big deal for our governance team right now. So candidly speaking, in 2022, a lot of the work that was happened behind the scenes, either bug fixes, triaging, network growth. So one of our goals for 2023 was to make this transparent and very clear. So what we did was we put together this roadmap, essentially highlighting everything that's going to be happening in the Phil Plus universe coming down the line that we're working on right now. So what I'm doing right now is I'm multitasking and I'm grabbing that link so I can put it in chat. And the goal of this is that you can come to this roadmap whenever you're curious, or if you're ever thinking about like what is actually being done. And by looking at this roadmap, it's meant to be interactive. So this ties into the Notion. The Notion is the page that we use for our project planning. And with this, you can essentially see, cool, what are the governance team doing right now that enables us to hit these goals? Because this is a living board, that means that whatever we update during the week and moves forward, you'll see this updated. And what's also nice is that if you have an idea or you're keen to see something get through and you don't see it on this roadmap, well, hey, candidly speaking, we're probably not working on it. So that's a great flag for Kevin, RG, Simon, Deep, Galen. Hey, I noticed that you weren't doing X. This is really important. Can you please take a look? So feel free to click on any one of these. If you just dive into that, you'll see kind of the work that's progressing as it goes forward. And again, this is meant to be totally transparent, open, and any feedback you have is greatly appreciated as we go forward. So again, Phil kind of briefed this morning. I apologize. You have to listen to me talk about so many of these wonderful topics from a position of awareness, not deep. But essentially, this new website, this datacaps.io, it's linked in the Slack if you want to find out. Essentially, what this is doing is it's taking those stakeholders and it's meant to really push that information out. You're probably seeing a theme. Roadmaps public, the stakes public, the dispute resolutions public. All of this is meant to be public, and it's meant to be like, where is the statistics on that data cap allocation going? So right now we're looking at initials like, hey, how many people applied for data cap? How many people got data cap? I can see how this program evolves in the next 3 to 6 months is maybe we're saying how many people applied and how many people didn't receive it. So Phil did a really excellent blog. It's there in Medium if you're keen to read about this. But essentially, this is the first of several dashboards that are coming down the pipeline. We really encourage you to check them out. And also feedback. If there's a dashboard that would make you more impactful for your business or metrics that would help you as you're going forward, please let myself, please let Bill know, please let the team know. We'll be happy to get you as you go for that. So with that, I'm going to take a well-earned pause and turn the floor over to RG for an update on the working groups with trust and transparency. RG, floor is yours, buddy.
Great. Thank you so much, Kerry. So the two main updates from the D&T working group are issue 860, 861. So one of the complaints that we've heard from notaries over the past many months is that it's very hard for them to do KYC on SPs, which is fair because most of our efforts today are not focused on SPs. They're mostly focused on clients. And so one of the things that we thought we could do is leverage other ecosystem teams on how they're doing SP KYC. And so this proposal is to leverage the green scores that are being developed by the Filecoin Green team. And so essentially the proposal is notaries can use the scores as a mechanism for SP KYC in their due diligence process. Now, right now, we don't care too much about the actual scoring, but the fact that like someone has been through Filecoin Green would be a signal that that SP is known in the ecosystem, and that can be used as an argument for a notary to say that, hey, because this client is working with an SP that is part of this program, then I'm confident to sign this application. So if you do have inputs or concerns regarding this proposal, please share your concerns in the issue. And if you do have concerns or questions about how the green scores are being calculated, you can ask me, you can DM me, or ask in the TNT working group. And if I do get too many, or if I get many questions around that, I'll be happy to invite someone from the Filecoin Green team to speak at the next Trust and Transparency working group call. But a lot of the work that they've done is available on greenscores.xyz. So please check that out. Yeah, we can move to the next issue. So the next issue is, I guess, something that I'm super excited about. So one of the big questions that, we always get, and frankly, that we've been asking ourselves is, how can we quantitatively define what is quality data and what, how much abuse there is? Now, of course, the CID checker bot was one one step in that direction, but we do want to kind of iterate on that thing. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is define overall high quality deal making. And so in this issue, you'll find 3 metrics that I'm proposing that we can use to start to define quality data. I won't go into the specifics right now, but again, that's a proposal, and all of this will become part of a dashboard that will essentially signal the health of Filecoin Plus in many ways. And so if you do have any suggestions or questions, please post them on issue 861. There's also a query there, which, so for someone who wants to run that query, please go ahead and see if it's working for you. So I think those are the two major updates that I wanted to share.
Great, RG. Thank you. So essentially recapping high quality data and collaboration with the Phil Green and KYC. Does anybody have any questions about these or would like to discuss this while we have RG?
I'll ask something, Kevin. RG, how are you? I've only just seen this, so I apologize if I need to read it first. But when you say defining high quality, whose perspective are you defining that from?
Sorry, I didn't get the second part.
Whose perspective are you defining high quality from?
Whose perspective? So yeah, I think in this case, it would be right now it's kind of, the proposal is from my perspective, but of course we want the community input because, the challenge is quality will always be a subjective definition, right? And so I think, which is kind of where we run into someone saying VPN is okay, someone saying, storing X number of copies in a certain region is okay. And so I think right now we're starting with the deal making, which I would say is definitely way more objective. So things like, because with deal making, you can just like look at the CID checker data. And so right now, some of the things that are defined there are, so if you are only storing one copy on the network, that's probably abuse, right? Because we don't really see that happening in the data storage industry. So I think, from that perspective, right now, we're using high quality deal making as a proxy for quality. But down the line, I want to integrate metrics such as, how much Datacap has been assigned to, by unique notaries and things like that, which will be evolving. And so, so I think that's why, I think on the second slide, I did not mention the word quality data. I think there was some pushback that I personally got within the governance team, saying that, we shouldn't say that this is quality data. But we're just saying that, let's start to work towards quality data objective definition, which will be, of course, community governed, community agreed. But then right now, I think tracking high quality deal making is the first step in that direction.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
What a good question, Mark. I had that too. What is quality? You go to a fast food restaurant, it's a little bit different than a fine dining experience. How do we really look at it?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, it's like thinking through this from the client's perspective. Like the client's the one that's deciding what's quality and what's not. And that's largely down to what they're willing to pay. And so the data cap is some kind of effective discount for the client, or it should be. And so then we start getting into a really weird question, I think, because you're providing discounts for certain things. And to your, maybe to be specific to your point, RG, there's one copy on the network and you're saying that's data abuse. Well, that could also be a researcher doing a university project that doesn't want to mirror their data, so it's a very, very tricky thing to start defining that stuff is a little bit of my thinking.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. I think at the end of the day, of course, I think clients should define what quality is, but just given how, Filecoin Plus is operating today, I think the biggest lever we have is deal making through Filecoin Plus. So
I think deal making makes sense.
Yeah. And so I think if you go look at the issue, I haven't actually defined it at 90%. it's a range, of course. And so, yeah, totally. I think that's one of the reasons I'm sharing this right here. So, we haven't published any of this number. It is in the works. So if people think that we need to tweak the math and tweak the query, more than happy to take feedback and incorporate that.
So,
Mark, comments and feedback like that are exactly why I'm happy that you're on the call. Thank you. More of you can let us know. All these perspectives are greatly appreciated. We'll have plenty of time if anything comes to mind to circle back to this at the end of the call. I'm going to pass it over to Simon. Simon, if you're on the call, to kind of speak to what's going on with issue 821.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Just want to announce that the workaround for the Datacap removal feature is all set up now. As a notary or a member of the Trust and Transparency Working Group, you can now submit a proposal to remove or modify a client's Datacap. So the proposal can be found in the Notary Governance repo. It's pretty straightforward, I'd say. It asks 4 questions. If you see on the photo below, the client application URL with a number, the client name, the client address, and the amount of Datacap to be removed. Once the proposal is made public, there will be a 2-week discussion period during which community members can express their views on why the proposal should or should not be accepted. If you do end up creating a proposal, please provide your reasoning behind why this proposal was created in the comments section. Just to give you some examples, some could be something like the client requested to another wallet, just an accidental duplicate, or just providing false information. But I do really want to reemphasize this is just a workaround. It could be a little bit tedious and manual, but we're currently working with another team to make sure we can launch the original version. Again, and also, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Well said, Simon. Thank you for that. So this was kind of a sad issue. This is just kind of transparency update. So we had issue 855. This got proposed about 2 weeks ago, and it was closed out last week. And essentially what happened is we had a fraudulent actor inside the notary community. So this was brought up. We made this proposal to kind of give this notary a chance to comment, add any kind of clarification to the situation that we may not be missing. And we didn't hear back. So because we didn't hear back and because we didn't get that clarification, it was pretty clear cut. We removed that notary from the multi-sig and Slack. What we essentially did with this was 2 things. One was we removed the bad actor, and 2, we kind of set a precedence, like a case legal for a law going forward, in that if we have this kind of bad behavior in the future, how are we going to address it and what timelines are we going to give? So being very transparent, if we were to see this blatant fraud, what we will do is we will make this proposal. We will flag to that individual with the Trust and Transparency taking the lead for transparency to say, this is the issues that we've seen. Please provide an explanation on why this has happened. And if we don't have a sufficient answer in that time, we will move forward with that removal. The goal of this is, again, to not happen in a black box, but to essentially make sure that this network is growing in a safe and effective way. And in 2023, we talk a lot that we are making this pivot to quality. So any deviations from that will not be tolerated, especially with clear-cut fraud like this case was. So I wanted to thank you guys for flagging this. Thank you for the patience and transparency you went through. And see, RJ, if you're on the call still, if there was anything additional that you wanted to add from the Trust and Transparency Working Group.
No, I think you covered it pretty well, Gary. Thank you so much.
Sweet. Hoping this is the only time we have to have this conversation as we go forward. But on that note, what a great proposal this one was. So this got filed from Heresy. It's 856. Just putting this on your radar if you haven't seen it. Essentially what this proposal is saying is, given the fact that we've seen some essentially bad actors or bad behavior, does it make sense to come back and do a second round of KYC on the existing round of notaries. So if that was done, what would be the goals? And it would essentially be assuring that there was trust in the notaries that were currently onboarded, making sure that those notaries that were brought on are who they say they were, and then having some kind of light KYC. Now, in this proposal, there was a lot of really specific things that were brought up. Now, those specific things don't have to initially be discussed right now, but this is a good opportunity to kind of flag what those specific things were and kind of how the governance team is looking at, and then perspectives from the community. So after this slide, we have a couple of neat things to show you on that, but I wanted to kind of pause and see if anybody who's seen this issue wanted to share any thoughts or feedback before we kind of delved into that conversation on it. Well, if I was on that side of the call, I would probably wait and listen a little bit too. All right, well, here's what's going on this side. Essentially, in this issue, they spell out, wouldn't it be nice if there was a lightweight KYC process? For those of you notaries that have worked with me, you know it's like a disclosure form, it's a sanctions check, it's a token verification, it's an email verification, it's a Slack verification. It's a whole big process. And if you were on the trust and transparency call last week, we kind of highlighted why that's not scaling. So it used to be Filecoin Plus was a very community, very relationship driven program. As it's scaled, it's become harder and harder to know who's applying, who's receiving, who's in the process. So there does need to be some sort of mechanism as we grow. Now, there's no right answers on this one, so this is just one option, but we can kind of look at what's worked well for other teams. And what KZ has been doing for Enterprise Fill Plus is just essentially game changing. So KZ has scouted and worked with this vendor, toggle.io, to provide KYC. And what this toggle.io will do is you essentially verify your application, you sign in, you provide a screenshot of your face, you provide your passport, your ID, and you've essentially linked yourself to your application. So KZ was kind enough to run down a demo of this. It's a quick 3.5, 4-minute video tops, and it outlines the steps that this toggle does for this process. The reason I like to play it for you, and then after it plays, maybe invite KZ for any thoughts or feedback that he has, is because what we're looking at doing is opting this in for applications and notaries going forward. So with that, kind of watch this, get a feel, and take a look at how they're doing KYC on the Enterprise Fill Plus side of the house.
Hey, Ray, not getting any sound.
Well, that's not very good. Thanks for letting me know. Let me see what could be causing that. You know what, Casey, I think it's because I've got an earbud in. Guys, what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick pivot. Since this video won't play with that sound, I am going to post it in the Slack so you can watch it async. And I'm going to screenshot skip to the parts of the video that I would call out. So first part that I would call out is, if you could see on the screen, essentially after you created an account inside of Toggle, you line up and you essentially say, I'm going to use a document verification, or I'm going to use like a live check as you go forward. What you'll then do is you'll link your email, your cell phone, or a QR code. After you've done that and you've verified your email login, you essentially show your face. So if you've done a live scan or you've done like an online certification before, this is nothing new. And after you've verified your face matches the ID that you've uploaded in your criteria, you then select what ID you'd like to have. Very kind of run of the mill for this KYC. So whether it's your passport, your national ID, your driver's license, you upload that and then you verify your identity through those mechanisms. Your email verification, your completed live scan of your face, which matches to your passport, national ID, or driver's license. Once you've done all these, we can essentially say, okay, this is KZ who's linked to this address on this GitHub application. And we know we're not just working with an email address. So this is kind of a much more intricate KYC than we've done in the past. We're not proposing this to roll out and be a definitive next week, but what we are looking at is taking the lessons learned from other programs like Enterprise Fill Plus and bring that over. So before I open this up for any thoughts or feedback, KZ, I know that you're on the call. Can you give us any comments or feedback or thoughts after kind of scoping this?
Sure. Thanks, Kerry. I guess just to highlight what this means for us. So as Kerry mentioned, this is another iteration that we're implementing as part of the Enterprise Fill Plus upfront check, which adds another layer of trust for the applicants to be able to opt in and identify themselves via this check. There was a question on the earlier call today if this limits certain people from applying, and the way this will work. Once it's set up and ready, which will likely be in a few weeks, I'll have more of an update on the process and the flow. But the idea is you go to fillplus.storage. When you log in, you'll be prompted to complete this check, and you can opt in or opt out. So it's not a mandatory check for anyone logging into fillplus.storage. It will be required for the eFill Plus participants with private data for now. But so that was one question that came up. You can opt into this. This is not a requirement. Again, it's just adding another layer of trust. I think that's it for now. We'll have more of an update probably on the next call in 2 weeks. We're working actively on the integration with this company to get things set up, and we should have more soon on that front.
That was awesome. Can I echo a comment that came through in chat, which I think is really praising it? Batman, thanks for asking this. I'd be worried about this myself, is how can we trust Toggle? Like in this age, how do we know that their data is safe and our personal information won't get leaked?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, one of the pieces that I looked for, there's a lot of companies out there that do this kind of work. Toggle was a partner that met our use case, and they actually, the information, once it's entered into their system, it's stored decentralized on their side of the house. So I wanted something that we would never have to be able to manage anyone's information via Filecoin Foundation, PL side, anything like that. So this is something where you work with them, you do the check, and then the information is stored decentrally through their system. If you watch the video, he explains that a little bit more, and there's a lot of information on their website about this. But it was one of the sales features that I liked the most about this product. It was dealing with the privacy of people's information. Yeah. Any other questions? So I'll just say one more thing, Kerry. I know that in the previous slide, there's talk of another product that was being proposed. This product, we've been working for a few months now, getting this set up with an agreement and requirements and integration. So we are moving forward with this for eFill. As Kerry mentioned, this is something that we could potentially leverage for notaries moving forward. It's something to talk about. At this point in time, this will just be a pilot. We want to see how this works, see how the engagement level is for applicants, and/or if we do roll this out to test with notaries, like how it works. This is nothing set in stone at this point. That was also a comment from the earlier call. So just keep that in mind. It's something that we're continuously iterating, working towards finding better product or products. This doesn't have to be the only way this can be completed. If there are other better ways out there, we're happy to implement those as well.
And one other question that came through is this KYC just for Enterprise Fill Plus? Yes, at the time being, Enterprise Fill Plus is the ones rolling this out. But the fact that we're talking about this on a governance call, this is probably just saying that we're moving in that direction for you notaries and for applications. There needs to be some level of quality that's going forward. So whether it's toggle, whether it's a different system, the program is definitely moving to that to identify and know who it is and then build trust from there. So again, this check right now is just for Enterprise Fill Plus, but in the coming weeks and months, we are definitely moving this way as an enterprise program. Great questions. I appreciate both of those. If anything else comes up, shoot a hand, interrupt, post in chat. KZ, as always, well said. Very much appreciate that insightful update. So again, looking at this from the perspective of you notaries, here's a couple things to be mindful of. So this proposal saying, hey, can we go back and can we do KYC on all fourth round notaries? My thoughts and what I'm going to comment on this one is it's probably not the best use of time to put all of you notaries that have gone through an election, have gone through all this due diligence, have gone through all these sanctioned checks to come back and do an additional level. I would rather your emphasis be focused on your businesses and the data. So what can I do to help back you up so that we're kind of moving forward while adding this level? I think the first thing is just to be very transparent on data and how we're looking at it. So here's where we stand. Right now, fourth round notaries is around 80, 83. And essentially what we're looking at is a next round of elections to take place in summer. I'm going to throw a dart and very high level, say around July, I think we'll be ready for this. What will happen is that around May or June, we will have a Fill Plus Day, very similar to how we did Fill Lisbon back in November. We will have a massive information push. We will answer questions. We will update the elections. We will go through best practices, give you plenty of time to flush this process out, make sure it works for you, returning notaries. After that, we will launch the election. And I would imagine in that election, we will then build in things like KYC. We will then build in things like distributed data. We will build in things that make it easier for you. Lesson learned on our part, we did the elections in the past with 15, 20, maybe 30 applications. It was really easy to read a few paragraphs, a few pages, really do our diligence. As this process scaled and as we increased into like over 100 applications, it just becomes daunting for one or two people to really get a sense of who you are and what you're bringing. So the goal of this next election is move away from unstructured data, move away from these sentences, paragraphs, and move into a system where you can essentially provide structured data. I'm XYZ, I've been doing 1, 2, 3, and then we can put that on the board. So if you had to think about this going forward for KYC, very much a moving target, but we're looking at elections coming up in the summer of 2023 with the Fill Plus Day right before it to really dive into that. So I'm going to pause, see if anybody has any thoughts, feedback, way to make this as easy as possible, or things to keep on mind. I won't call anybody out, but I see mics muting, unmuting. That's usually what I do. So I'm going to wait 10 seconds, see if that mic unmuter wants to say anything.
Since you invited me, Kevin, I'll ask. So is the plan here to onboard more notaries this round? Like, as in, I think we're up to 70 or something. Did you say last time? So is the idea to get more and more notaries on board?
That's such a good question. Thank you for asking that. So what I've realized is more is not better. As much as it's nice to have a bigger community, it also gets harder to manage. So no, the goal isn't to go for straight numbers. I think one of the goals is to go for metrics improvement, is looking at who was a successful notary in the third and fourth rounds. What was their TTD? How did they propose? How did they commit? And then look for that profile and then build that into an election. What I don't care about is having 500 notaries if we can't push an application forward in 2 or 3 days, if we can't get somebody to reply or comment on it. So what we'll be doing is really building this around who's moving the needle forward on metrics that we care about, and then baking that in. So long story answer to that, no, the goal isn't necessarily more notaries, it's higher quality notaries. Thank you for asking that. Happy to clarify.
Yeah, I think very well said, Kerry. Just agree on that. And I think we did partner, the governance team did partner with the TNT working group in the last round, but that was a very high level check. It was more of like, like everything's good. But now that we have the leaderboard up, we have the dispute tracker up, we'll have more metrics, as Kerry just mentioned, to actually track the SLAs and the behavior of the notaries. The goal is definitely not to have more and more notaries. The goal would, and if, for example, between now and then, we might find a form of the KYC process that KZ is leading. I think those will all go into the process, and I think there will be some self-filtration, which will, get us towards more quality notaries, as well as increasing standards from our side. Because I think the last time was the first time we introduced the leveling, but now we have something to build on. So yeah, I personally, on the TNT side, will keep pushing for fewer notaries and higher quality notaries. But yeah, I think that's at least my personal agenda, I should say. Yeah.
Hey, Ajay, and maybe I've missed this somewhere. You guys have been putting out a heap of info lately. But is the thinking or the vision to get all deals through the Filecoin Plus program, or deals or clients?
So I think I can speak to this a bit. So at the most recent ESPA, we learned that Filecoin Plus deals aren't profitable. Like only Filecoin Plus deals aren't profitable anymore for some SPs. And so I think there's already been a big push on that's something that with charging and introducing pricing models. I think the FPM team is working towards that. I think we actually have a working session next week in New York with Jonathan Victor and some of the folks who have been with Filecoin Plus since its inception. So yeah, I think those things are coming in, but we do need to kind of make sure how would we introduce that. I think things like reducing the changing the multiplier or reducing the incentives is a very hard stick. And I think we do get into this game of carrots and sticks. So yeah, I think, of course, something like that would need to go through a FIP. And given that what's happening in the FIP land and the governance side of things there, there was a lot happening in the past 2 months there. So yeah, but to answer your question, that's not the goal we're working towards. We do want to introduce some form of hybrid price making model. But I think as we are improving the Fill Plus side of the house, I think there are teams and there are people thinking about, how do we introduce kind of pricing models through crypto economic incentives.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, if anything comes to mind, you know where to find us. GitHub, Slack. Next call is taking place May 9th. Other than that, really appreciate your time, your input, and all of your work that you've done on this program. Anything, please give a shout. Otherwise, thanks again. We'll see you on the next call. Cheers, everyone.